So you guys are in the state tournament. You face Faribault in the first round. It's a very intense, close game. Tell us how that wrapped up.
Well, we had scrimmaged Faribault that year, and see, I don't know if I remember it that one-sided. I know that's what he kind of said.
Coaches always remember it that way.
Yeah, exactly. But we scrimmaged them, and so we got to that game, and the funny thing was, it was the NCAA tournament was practicing putting a floor in the dome, because eventually they're going to have a first and second round, so they wanted to see how basketball played in the Metrodome at that time. So that's why the state tournament was played at the Metrodome, just for the quarterfinals in the larger class schools. So we played there, and we scrimmaged them earlier, like I said, and they had Scott Gutzman, who was a pretty good player there for Faribault. And it was just a tight game. My memory is we were kind of, it was tight most of the time and pretty close, but we kind of had a lead most of the time, and they'd come charging back in a low-scoring game, like a lot of Jefferson games at that time. They tried an alley-oop play to Gutzman. They tried to run this back screen against our zone, set a screen, and they just ate up the clock all the way down till like 7 seconds, and they tried to throw an alley-oop pass to Scott Gutzman, who was about 6'4" and could jump. And I just kind of slid back there, and I kind of picked off the pass. The pass was kind of low. Yeah, I kind of sniffed it out a little bit, so I whatever. So we get past that game in the Dome, and that was... But they were a good team. Faribault was pretty tough.
I think you guys went on, defeated St. Paul Central and then Duluth Central.
Yeah, Central was I think along with Duluth Central, Minneapolis North, and St. Paul Central were kind of ranked just above us in the rankings at that point. And they had a bunch of like big, strong, mature, like football player kind of guys. And the game before Central beat Mounds View in the quarterfinals in the Dome. And we sat and watched that game either before our game or after our game. And Mounds View was tough. They had a good team, but they man-to-manned St. Paul Central. And Central just kind of ate them up a little bit, even though I thought Mounds View was probably better. And I'm thinking, we're going to zone these guys, and we're going to see if they can shoot. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, we jumped on St. Paul Central, and they kept jacking up outside shots. They didn't know how to handle our zone, and they couldn't shoot, and they missed a bunch of shots. And next thing you know, we're up 15, and we just cruised. Mm-hmm. And they had a great season, but we just kind of mowed them down, and it seemed like they had very little life. We kind of took the life out of them early on, and just controlled that game.
So then the championship, was it a pretty tight ball game?
Yeah, it was. I tell you what, Duluth Central's chemistry, I thought, that kind of jumped at me. As there were a bunch of all seniors that played on that team for Central, and you could tell they were pretty tight, and they won a really close game, a last-second shot against Minneapolis North the night before to get to the title game, and so they snuck by North, and so they were feeling good, and they scrimmaged us earlier that winter. We went up to Duluth Central to scrimmage them, and they clobbered it. That's my memories. They clobbered us. Plus, they had motivation because we beat them in the third place game in '85. So we played Duluth Central the year before in the third place game in the state tournament. And we had such a good team. We kind of hammered them. And so when they saw us in the following year in Duluth, just for that scrimmage, they kind of pounded us. That's kind of what I remember about that scrimmage. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of came into this game like, all right, we got this made. We saw these guys in December, and we kind of handed it to them. And but like I said, we were playing well at that point. And our team kind of shifted too. You went from early in the season, it seemed like our offense was kind of built more around our guards. But by the end of the season, like I said, John Walker just came on like gangbusters and was a real good scoring threat inside. I was the offense, I was more involved in the offense, and even Dave Flick, our big guy, had a really good game in that championship game too. So I think that's a reason why we were playing better, because we focused maybe more on our bigger players like me and Walker and Flick, and I think we won a tight game against Duluth Central, a really tough game, close game. So it was. That was a special night. When I look back on my high school days, I think a lot about senior year in '87 was special. But a lot of that kind of was built on what happened in 85 and 86 too, so.
So 87 comes along, your senior year. You guys are obviously looking forward to a big year. So Robbie, what made a good time, special time for you?
Just how close we were, I think, is a big thing. You know, we were an extremely tight team.
That's right.
Those are the guys we were with all the time. And, you know, you're at practice all the time, and after practice, we always went to eat. And there are other times when we went to eat. We used to do bowling and pizza nights, just everything. And so it was just the whole thing.
Did Kevin ever buy?
No, I'll get another story about that.
Okay.
No, it's just, you know, those are the things we were just always together and talking about it. You know, you talked about the coaches, they talked about how it was the neighborhood kids who grew up together. And it was a traveling team. And watching Johnny win that championship, and we were all after I think we had a traveling game during the state tournament even. We went to the tournament together, you know, watched that whole thing and ran on the floor together. And, you know, so it was that whole thing, you know, building up. And, you know, it was just being a part of it, because they would have won it without me here or not. But I got to be a part of it, and it's still something I take pride in. But it was with my buddies, and you try to work those guys as hard as you could in practice every day. And that was kind of the thing that I took pride in. It was like, yeah, well, I would hack them and beat them and made their games maybe easier and stuff. And the coaches still held high expectations on the guys that weren't necessarily playing in the games to work hard every day in practice to make these guys better. So you're a big part of everything.
You're valued, yeah.
That's the thing, is like when we talk about 86 and the championship that year is we didn't have horrible chemistry. We had good enough chemistry to win it all, but we had talent, you know, and we were playing well. That's the big thing. We were playing well at the end of the season. Senior year in 87, it was special because the chemistry and the closeness. We were all really tight and good buddies, and yeah, and to you know, so to have success. And another thing, having an undefeated season, as you know, Jim, is like, that's not easy to do.
No.
You know, you got to bring it. Even teams that are significantly more talented than other teams that they play on their schedule, sometimes a guy gets hurt, a guy is sick, a guy's in foul trouble.
Well, you have that rivalry factor, too, with Kennedy.
With Kennedy, yeah.
I mean, you see that every time you play him.
And we were the defending state champs. So we got everybody's best shot that entire season, and everybody had, at least our teams in our conference, had a crack at us in their own gym. And so for us to go undefeated under those circumstances, it was pretty special. It was just a group effort of coaches and players and committed to teamwork and winning. And yeah, I mean, the chemistry on that team is, I played a long time. That's one of probably the best group as far as, you know, if you want to use that word chemistry, that's about as good as it got, at least in all the years that I played, was my senior year.
I talked to Jack about it too, and you know, Jeff and I have been coaching for 21 years together now here. I could say maybe 3 teams that we had that I refer to this word as, and I asked Jack about it, and he said, yeah, that would be one of those teams where they're on autopilot. They know the system, they've been around, the chemistry is a huge thing, and things just go.
Yeah.
They just go. And so the other thing, too, is your conference. Your conference, I believe, had changed, and it was just a dogfight every night. I mean, from top to bottom.
Yeah.
You guys want to maybe talk about game nights? I'm sure that it was packed houses wherever you guys went, and just great basketball.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was, you talk about just from our conference, the Lake Red. It went from the Lake South in 86. Mm-hmm. They switched it, and that's that following summer of 86. And then in 87, it was called the Lake Red, Lake South to the Lake Red.
And was it done by size?
Yes. Yep. So all the big schools kind of basically from the West Metro part of the Twin Cities. So it was Osseo, Park Center, Armstrong, Jefferson, Kennedy, Burnsville, Apple Valley, and Rosemont. Like the biggest schools, the largest suburban schools on the western part of the Twin Cities. And everybody had size, big guys, and everybody had returning starters coming back. And it was a
lot of mileage scouting that year, Jake.
Yeah.
A lot of mileage.